to order. So we're doing remote attendance pursuant to the state executive orders. So I will need a motion to approve the agenda, but we do want to move up all of the action items, which I show are the patron ban policy, the credit card policy, patron ban appeal, and the volunteer policy.
I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Carl, you're the only one other here.
Second.
All right. So we'll do a roll call. Michael,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
and Samantha, yes. Okay. And then we were going over the minutes of the June meeting. So they look really good.
Yeah.
So can I have a motion to accept them as presented, or, yeah.
I'll make that motion to accept as presented.
Second.
All right. So Michael,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Samantha, yes. Okay. So, are there any public comments, Rick?
None.
Okay. Written communications?
None.
Okay. So we'll move on to, we'll just do the first action, which is the patron ban, patron behavior policy. So we have,
What I sent you is our current policy, and then some, which doesn't really address the ban issue. And that's what you guys wanted me to bring. So you want me to bring some examples from other libraries of how they approach that. And I don't really expect any action today. I just put it on there in case, but I wanted to give you guys the chance to talk those over.
Yep.
If you want to, my preference would always be that I think one of them has, the power to ban delegated to the director, and the director is also the person that gets appealed to. I don't care for that. I mean, I think if there's an appeal, it shouldn't be to the same person who banned you. I did like some of the things that gave specific. You can get banned for one day by staff. You can get banned for a week by that kind of thing. That seemed useful to me, and I think it'd be useful to staff. But I think
Joliet was a Joliet. I thought it was too vague. I think that was the Joliet one. I'm not sure. I liked the Carol Stream. Like 2 and 7 and 9, 10 and 11 were very specific. You know what I mean? With some of the things that they had to say. I like the one with Poplar Creek to somehow fit if the incident deemed to be more of a serious nature, you could ban them for 1 week on the onset of the first offense, which this gal on her first offense, according to Carol Stream, would probably be banned for a year. By looking at, because vulgar language, verbally attacking an employee of the library, to me is it's not acceptable.
Yes, I agree.
Which is exactly the route we took without the guidelines. I'm not, again, I think the guidelines could be useful, but that's exactly what the approach we took.
All right.
yeah, I thought Carol Stream was pretty clear. Like, I agree. Like, I like the idea of having a, specifics on like maybe some common type issues that you would have, and then at the discretion of management staff, like, would be able to extend the ban. Man.
Oh, yes. Oak Park and Carol Stream had, 2 big lists of what's acceptable or not. And I like that.
Yeah, we do have, our
Yeah.
smaller list.
I know, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only thing I'll say is that the city of Decatur is kind of different than those other libraries in that our downtown areas. I hate to say it that way, but it's kind of an influx of individuals with mental health issues, things of that nature. And obviously the library is a place where they may find internet access, all these things that are needed in 2020. So I think really instituting a case by case basis. I mean, obviously you don't want people yelling at patrons like we had with Robert, but if that's, the result of a mental health issue, I think it'd kind of be, I think we should just kind of look at it on a case by case basis. This is immediately imposing like a large ban on them, so to speak, but that's just my point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just know if an employee is threatened in the way that this gal threatened Robert, I don't like it.
Yeah. And
No, and especially after she was called on it before. I mean, this is the second instance then she has come in and apparently done the same thing with Rick.
Well, no, she's come in since the ban. She has attempted to come in several times. Once I happened to be there, walked her out, talked to her, told her, here's what's going to happen. You can appeal, but you can't come in until you get an okay from the board. Other times staff wasn't quite sure what to do. I've sent them the instructions that she is banned and that is trespassing until this board rules otherwise. She's banned for 1 year. So now they know that, but she also called and left me a voicemail that was very loud and vulgar. But it was, again, she was expressing her anger towards Robert, not towards me. And she, again, used racially charged language. And I have that recording in case anybody wants to look. I was going to say I'd be happy to forward it to you. I won't be happy to forward it to you, but I will forward it to you if you want to hear it.
I think we got the gist.
Yeah.
I think we probably got the gist.
I was unaware of that. They had the second incident. I was more or less speaking in general as opposed to this one case.
Yeah, and that's since she spoke to you guys 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. So what are we doing here right now? Are we discussing
No.
that particular case, or are we?
no, we're discussing,
No.
we're discussing a policy. We can take an action to recommend something to the board, but I don't know, I don't think we're ready.
Yeah, I don't think we're ready for that.
We're just
So
kind of talking about our dislikes, like dislike.
I just want to hear from you guys what parts of this you like and what you don't like, and then I'll take that and bring something back next month that to put up for a vote. But I wanted you guys to see some examples from other libraries around the state and to how they're approaching this. And in fairness, most libraries, while they'll have a code of conduct, they won't have most libraries don't have these are the possible consequences if you don't. And the difference between us and say City Hall is that people don't go to City Hall and hang out all day, or for hours at a time. They go to the City Hall and they pay their water bill or whatever, and they go. But this is a place where, people spend quite a bit of time. And I guess I just try to look out for what's best for most. And if somebody's, and Carl, your point is well taken by me as a former mental health caseworker. I have a lot of empathy for that. On the other hand, if you're in the children's department screaming obscenities and racial slurs, that's not good for the other. That's a deterrent for those kids to come back.
Right.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I mean, and I agree. So, Robert, is it okay if I provide some of your feedback that you sent today?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. I'm not going to read the whole thing or anything, but we do want to place consideration on, having, so to protect patrons and staff ultimately from abuse and discrimination, and to say I think he said it best. I'll just read the first sentence of the second one. So consideration could be given to the idea that policies put in place to protect patrons and staff from abuse and discrimination be as equal as possible and not offer lighter consequences. So, so I do think, and he did mention consistency. So, I mean, if we're gonna, we do need to treat everyone the same, but we also have different extenuating circumstances. So, you know, every situation is going to be different. So I like having some, you know, time limits and specific and some specific reasons, but at the same time, we have to consider that every situation is going to be different, and each one might require a longer, you know, like in this case, you know, the 1-year ban or.
I think the guidelines will help us achieve that equity, and it will still give us some leeway to make some exceptions when the case is extraordinary. But if the case is extraordinary, they can come to this board and make that case. And you guys can say, you know what, we think this is a case where we're making an exception, rather than one guy, you know, or not, you know, one person who sits in this chair making that decision every time.
I know we're not going to make a decision. I like the Carol Stream. I think we could use it and modify it and probably mold it into something that we like. There's no reason to have to reinvent the wheel when we have the wheel here.
That's why it's on top. I like
Yeah,
it
I
too.
did too.
Just because it's specific.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay, I'll make some, if what I'm hearing is I'll make some changes to that one to make it adapt it to our needs and you know, present it to you guys next
now,
month.
is there a way that you can send it to us ahead of time so we can look at it? I mean, I know you sent it to us ahead of time, but like right when you get it done, so if we want to make any changes, we could shoot ideas back to you.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean,
Carl knows that we can't respond to everybody. He has to respond to you, correct?
yeah, I don't know. Have you done OMA training yet?
Yeah, well, he's I don't know whether we covered that in our orientation or not, but when you're on a group email, Carl, you can only respond to me. You can't send anything to more than one other board member. I can, but you can't.
So like if you want to send them something to Rick and Samantha, say, hey, this is what I think, you can do that. You just can't send it to the whole group. We
Yeah,
break.
you can't send it to me and Michael because all three of us would be on there. It can be one other person.
And one other board member.
Yes, one. Yeah.
Otherwise, it constitutes a public meeting.
Yes. So that's why I said that. So I think we have like kind of a good, you know, idea about this. At this point, we are, I will request a motion, since we do have this as an action. I would need a motion to table this item until Rick.
I'll wait for the motion, but I do have one.
You can
comment.
make the motion.
I'll make
Do you
the
have a
motion.
question after the motion? Or you're going to make?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
I'll second.
Okay.
right,
The
discussion.
only problem I have with this is I still think it's very unclear and ambiguous about the time period. Who is making this time period from 1 day to 1 year? I mean, does that come back to, I mean, by the time we would meet again, it would be longer than 1 day. So who is making that call? And I'm not.
I believe that it calls on this one, the day-to-day management to be the library director, and it only comes to the board if the band patron requests an appeal.
Okay, I think that needs to be written in there, that language. So.
Yeah,
Yep.
happy to do that.
I agree. All right, then, so Rick will bring it to the next meeting. So I will take,
Vote.
yep. So, sorry, I'm just adding your name. So Michael,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
And Samantha, yes. Okay. So we'll move on to the credit card policy. So Rick, do you want to tell us anything about this?
It's fairly straightforward. I never like to go more than 3 years though without the board putting their eyes on a policy. I don't. It's seemed to have worked for us since we've had it. I don't have any recommended changes.
Mhm.
Okay.
If it works, don't fix it.
Mm,
Well, then I will take a motion to recommend this to the board, the full board.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right. Discussion. All right, Michael,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and Samantha, yes. Okay. So that one,
That was the credit card.
yes,
policy.
that's credit card policy.
Yep.
Okay, so so we're gonna move to the patron ban appeal. We do have that as an action item from old business that we moved forward, just so you know, Susan, because you weren't here yet. And we moved all the action items up to the beginning so that just in case Michael has to leave. So we'll move to the patron ban appeal. Oh my gosh, sorry, my dog is bothering me. So in this case, we can determine if we have a recommendation to the board about the specific incident. So we can either table this until the full board meeting, or we can do right
We
now.
make a recommendation, correct?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, you can't take final action, but you can make a recommendation.
Right. So if anybody wants to make a motion, or we can table it until the full board meeting.
Well, I think we could make a recommendation, maybe some discussion, a little bit of discussion about it and recommend to the board what we think.
Sure.
According to the Carol Stream, if we're going by that, she would, we would probably, well, it's difficult to say. The year ban, I don't know, in some of these others,
I'm not afraid to say it. I think if she's shown repeated behavior,
mhm.
she is, I don't know what her, situation is, but it doesn't sound like a healthy thing to have her at the library. At this point in time, in my,
Yeah, I mean,
agree.
I'll go up
I,
the route, but if she's calling and still doing the same thing that she was doing before, it's not fair. Number one, it's not fair to Robert. Number two, it's not fair for the other people inside there. It's just not fair.
No, I agree. I don't know what her situation is either, but she showed absolutely no remorse when she talked to us.
yeah,
Right.
And then, to come around and do the same thing. I mean, anybody who wants to come back to the library would be remorseful and say, I apologize and keep a low profile, but it may be a mental health issue, but I don't know what we do about that. That's not really our thing. So all we have to do is we have to protect our patrons and most definitely our staff.
yeah.
So
I agree with that. And I am having a hard time with the access, because people do need access. And so that is my most challenging part.
mhm.
Rick?
I have told her and she's taken advantage of it since we've never had this option in the past. This is the first patron I've tried this with. I've given her permission to use curbside service as long as she doesn't have some kind of outburst with that. So she does have access and she has availed herself of this.
She has.
Yes.
Okay.
But again, it's got to be without incident.
Correct.
Right, yeah. Carl?
Say that she's used the curbside service. Is that what you said?
Yes, she has.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, the repeat offenses is definitely not what we're looking towards here, and whether it is a mental health situation or not. I mean, explain that to that person clearly. We're trying to do our best to make that available to them, and they're still having the issues is one thing. Though to say that she is still using the library service as much as possible that is allowed to her is another thing. So it's really, like Samantha said, it's really coming into question there with the access, but also just the disruption issues that we're having. So.
Yeah,
I mean, seemingly the way we have our policy set up now means kind of not super specific, but the process that we're using now, where we're hearing her appeal and deciding upon it from there, I think is a good process. So,
And I mean, the last couple that we had, those people did, mention, they did say that they, either that it was just the situation that it was just not a good day. And, like there have been repeat, like one of them was in the past was like kind of a repeat offender. And so, but, he had mentioned that it was kind of just a situational time, in his life that was causing issues. So, I mean,
Here's what I would go for. As long as she's using, the curbside service without incident, that's fine. I would say 6 months. And if, then revisit it.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, the things that she said, the police had to be called the first time. And, her constant, going after Robert, I don't know. I think allow her to use the curbside service as long as there's no incident, 6 months banned, and we'll revisit it in 6 months. If she's been behaving herself and not, maybe we try it again. I don't know. What do you all think about that?
Well, I want to say something. We haven't got we don't have a policy in place yet, right?
right.
Why are we not just banning her until we sit down as a board and make a policy, and then she has to adhere to that, and we apply it to the policy?
Yeah, I think that's what I was suggesting. This
Okay.
was just a recommendation to the board. So is what you're saying, Michael, is that we're recommending to the board that,
That we wait
that
until.
we wait until a policy is in place?
Yeah, we should have a policy, correct, Rick, by our next meeting?
Well, by the next full board meeting,
Yeah.
well, no, if you want me to do it that way, we can. I thought I was going to bring it back to the next committee meeting, but I can bring it to
Oh,
the
well,
full
that's
board.
true. That's true.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I didn't think about that. I didn't think, yeah, we are going
Well,
to.
and I mean, the only problem I have with that, I guess, is sorry. The only thing I have is how do you put a policy in place and then kind of backdate it?
Yeah.
Like it's like a law. Like in my.
I agree. I was just trying to adhere to some kind of written policy instead of some arbitrary document like we have right now. But I'll go with whatever.
Right.
I'm okay with Susan's recommendation. There has been no problem with her using the drive up. She hasn't said anything to anybody. She hasn't.
That's correct. At least that's my understanding. Have you heard of any issues with the curbside, Robert?
No, so far from staff, it's just nothing to say about it. Just take the items out and hand them off or whatever and just come back in. So
I have a question, Robert. How do you feel about that?
about the curbside service,
Yeah.
I feel like it's your call.
Well, no, there's, if she's got bad behavior, if there's bad behavior, I think you punish the bad behavior. And I don't know if we say, well, yeah, you can use it because does that still?
Well, I guess, over the years, both Rick and I, since he's been here, I think the first day he was here, there was a guy in the parking lot with a knife. And I've had people who have mental problems and call me out, and all of that. And it just, was nothing, in my opinion, And nothing in my opinion that made me startled or anything like that. You know, we just deal with it like we deal with it. We say, you know, the way we deal with it is we don't allow any abuse to staff. And if you abuse staff, we ask you to leave. You don't leave, we call the police. And it was just that plain and simple. So there was nothing, nothing different other than the content, any other person. So I don't take it personally. Some of these people, that do things like this, years later, I get a chance to talk with them, and Rick and I were actually talking about, some restoration with different people, maybe not in this case, but it's I don't take it personally. I do think it has, for the sake of staff and for the sake of the patrons, I mentioned consistency, because I think if you have a patron and you denied them privilege when they're banned, and I know that has happened, where we've actually had one gentleman who stood up and, who FOIA'd us last year and said, we were saying your privileges were stopped when you were banned. And he said they were not, but actually they were, because someone else was picking up his things for him. And I think when you have those type of, if it's inconsistent, then I think it puts us in a difficult spot to explain why it's inconsistent. And I think also the other thing that at the top of my list is that I have people who I manage, and I have, I put myself as a buffer, and I know Rick does also. And I don't want anybody, any wife, any daughter, any son coming home and then having to go back home and say, I got cussed out at work. That's not going to happen with me, because I will ask them to leave and take whatever repercussions I have to take. But no, you're not going to go home and have to tell your husband you had a bad day because somebody cussed you out or called you a racial slur. So it doesn't matter what your color, your race, your age, treat people like people,
Right.
Exactly. So that's my point. So she, and I'm just using this as a scenario. Somebody goes out to give her something. She calls them a name. She does something out of care or in her character, and we've known what she's caused in the library. And then people come back and say, well, why did you still give her privilege when she came in there and caused a scene?
Well, unless you're going to give her a permanent ban for the rest of her life, that could happen 6 months from now, or a year from now, or a year and a half from now too. And the same question could be asked.
Right. I know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm okay. I'm okay with what the group decides. I'm just throwing it out there.
Mm-hmm. No, you make a point, Michael, too.
Yeah.
It's just like we did with the, anyway, that's another subject. I'm not going to go on with it. But anyway, I'll go with what the group says. If you want to give her a ban and still let her do curbside, I think there should be some kind of penalty.
Robert,
I'm not saying a permanent ban, but I'm just saying your actions, there's got to be some repercussions for it.
Robert, in any of your readings about restorative, like that restorative, is there any kind of policy specific language or like that, like having, either like remorse or like working with that person to try to, do you know what I mean?
The article that I've read, we've, and I sent it to some of you guys. It's basically it's a lot of it's geared toward the youth who really, you really want them in the library, and they want them to come in and be a part of the library and library programs and things like that. They're geared toward those, those guys, and students making sure, they can get back in the library and have access. But, I've had guys who, and I sent in an email, guys who've been incarcerated, people who are, they have all kind of problems. I didn't grow up on the right side I did, but I like to venture on the wrong side of tracks when I was younger. And so I'm not, I'm not going to get all weepy when someone comes in and uses a few words, but I know that there are guys, men and women, who have had more serious problems, and they've been banned, and they've come back and they've they've apologized, and some of them say, can you help me with these applications? Can you help me get a job? And more than happy to do it. I'm more than happy. Rick and I talked. I said,
Right.
if she calls, I'm more than happy to sit down with her and say, hey,
Mhm.
let's take a tour of the library. Let's do some things library wise. And because you give me a challenge, I want to change your mind, about some things. So I don't know this person personally. But it's so, it's been people before I haven't known personally either. But so I don't have anything for adults. Most of what I read is what I sent, the ones I sent you guys is about for younger people, students mostly in colleges, trying to work out something to get those guys back in the library. Maybe it's whatever it is,
I think the only one I saw I didn't see that it was specific to teens, like the one you sent me
Okay.
earlier this week or last week.
Okay, maybe it was another one I was reading then, because it was the one that the information I was getting is mostly about like the teens that were, they get in trouble and come in and cause disturbances, and, they get, okay, you guys got to leave for the day or whatever. But I think with adults, it's a little bit more challenging, I think, to have a program in place.
Right. I was just curious because that is important. The ideally the non-repeat behavior, like that it doesn't continue.
I have a couple of things I want to add to it. Forgive me, some of them are escaping me now, but it kind of makes the policy a little bit more complex and difficult to write, but maybe having like a tiered system to some degree, and that we spoke that this general staff can give a 1-day ban, and that the librarian and one of their leaderships can give a year's ban. I think maybe having like I said, like a tiered system where if it's not necessarily to like the level where like cops need to be called, but you're still asked to leave. Maybe it's like a 3-month ban, some of the nature, and or a year is it's like a long period of time per se. I mean, obviously it depends on what the offense is. I mean, if it's smaller, then that's one thing. But aside from that, I think there's a very large difference in what's available to you when you're not able to come inside versus when you're able to just do online services, curbside services, when they can still book things. I mean, I, as a library patron, don't necessarily, I'll get a book from time to time, but most of the services that I use the library for are more like inside of use of the copy machine from time to time, facilities, things of that nature. So I think really banning them from any in-building services, I think that is somewhat of a penalty to still imply on someone. So I think that we should allow some degree of curbside services, as long as maybe I'll kind of depend on.
You're talking about this specific event?
No, this was more in general. This is in general. Like I said, kind of muddies things when speaking about the one specific case. I'm gonna try and make it more broad and more general. So, well, like I said, having possibly some kind of tiered system depending upon what the offense is, and then also I just think that the use of the curbside services, if it's applicable, is an option that we should probably reserve the right to use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, sorry.
That's the direction I was thinking with this particular one. Again, we didn't have, last time we banned somebody, we didn't have curbside. And I thought, well, we have banned, like, for instance, we banned people from computers. You can come in the building, but you can't use the computers for 30 days because it was computer specific. And this was an inability to behave properly in a public setting. I mean, that's essentially what it was. Curbside service, there is little to no interaction with staff. We come in, hopefully you've got your trunk popped. We drop your items in there, and then we go back. Again, though, I mean, there's some opportunity on the telephone, or I could roll down my window and yell something at you. So
when she left you these voicemail message, when she left you this voicemail message, had she been already using the curb service?
I'm not 100% sure. It was on my vacation, and I don't know. I can't remember exactly when it came compared to whether or not she had used curbside. But
Was
it
it
was.
shortly after our
It
meeting?
was. Here's what she was screaming about on my voicemail, because my voicemail said, if you need help, call Robert Edwards, because I was on vacation. And so she was mad that she would have had to talk to Robert,
Mhm.
you know? So that set her off again. And, you know, I mean, to me, that was the clincher. You know, if you're going to continue to do this,
Right.
continue to try to come into the library when you know you can't, you've been asked not to come into the library, then that's the clincher of the year. And I'd be willing to say, if you know, well, of course, whatever you guys say is what goes here anyway. But I think you can make a very good argument that maybe you've blown the curbside by continuing to try to come in. I mean, she knows she can't come in. I mean, I've made it very clear to her. You know, I said there's a chance that the board rules that you can, but they haven't done so yet. So, and you know, when the police were called, I don't know if I gave you guys this nuance. I was talking to her while we were waiting for the police to come. She was calm. She had lowered her voice, and I said, Lakeisha, why don't we just walk outside now? Just walk away before the police get here. I'll tell them you're gone and things are taken care of. Then you can come back in tomorrow and we can talk about how long, you know, we're going to look at maybe a 30-day ban or a 6-month ban, but I'm looking at a much longer ban if you get taken. And she not only waited for the police to come, she wouldn't cooperate with them. She had to be taken out in cuffs.
I think with that behavior, you get it all taken away. If you want to do a curbside and take that away for a month or 2 months, give her a chance to come back with curbside, but she's got an indoor ban for 6 months and a chance to earn back curbside, my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so can I have a motion for whatever you guys want? Because I mean, I and
To
she
present
can
to the
come
board, to present to the full
back,
board.
recommend to the board, correct?
What about a 6-month ban inside and a 1 month ban on,
That's what,
and then we'll play it by ear.
And that begins when the board votes in that's when the clock starts.
Well, I would say if she's wanting to go curbside now, we haven't made a decision as a board. It'd probably be best for her to wait for us to have our decision. Yes? You're gonna let her come to curbside and do it now and then ban her a month later?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to, you know, we've already set the kind of precedent with the curbside. So that's another question, I guess. Because I mean, the 6 months I agree with. I mean,
Well, she's appealing, and what Michael's suggesting is both lesser and more than what I did. So I said, you're out of the building for a year, but you can get curbside. Michael's saying, okay, let's not do a year, let's do 6 months, but you can't have curbside for a month. So
I didn't realize that you had set a year.
Yeah, either did I.
that's what she's appealing.
Oh, okay.
She's appealing my decision to ban her for a year, but allow her to have curbside.
I'm gonna say because we don't have a strict policy in place that addresses each, like
Mhm.
Carl had said, that we don't have a specific thing here. We give her a 6-month ban and a month ban. And I guess if you want to let her do curbside until the board votes on it, there you go. But I don't know, telling her in advance, hey, well, you could tell her in advance, you're welcome to use curbside. The board's going to vote on it whenever the next board meeting is, and then we'll let you know.
Well, I see things a little differently now. I did not realize, or maybe I did not hear, that Rick had told her she had a 1-year ban.
mhm.
I think if we come back and say a 6-month ban, we're stepping back and we're not standing behind him. So now I'm almost feeling we need to stay with the 1-year ban, if that's what Rick told her.
Well, it's
It
not
could be
about.
a one-year ban, correct?
Yeah.
Or it is a
No,
one.
no. Here's what happens. This many times I ban somebody for a particular length of time. I always tell them you can appeal to the board. This is the third time anybody has appealed to the board. First time I had given, and I stopped giving lifetime bans on legal advice. But the first time was a lifetime ban for attempted theft. The guy came in, talked to the board, made a very remorseful and appealing case. You guys overturned the lifetime ban. He's not caused any problems. He's been in here and been on his best behavior. The last time was Mr. Lattimore, and some of you were a part of that. He came in and talked about, you know, his issues, and his was repeated offenses that I think that culminated in a lifetime ban, and he came in and appealed, and you guys restored it, and we haven't had any serious issues with him since then, but he's not coming here very often either. And so this time I gave a 1-year ban because I've been advised to not give the lifetime bans anymore. Told her she could appeal, but I also said, but you can have curbside service. Told her she could appeal, and that's what she did 2 weeks ago with you guys.
Okay.
And it doesn't hurt my feelings if you guys, I mean, that's just the name of the game. I mean, the Illinois statute gives boards of trustees the sole power to deny library services. However, they can delegate that on a day-to-day management to library directors.
Okay. So a precedent has been set that the board will reconsider and give a lighter sentence, so to speak. However, in this case, you know, you said in those 2 cases that they came to the board and were remorseful and blah, 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 and haven't had a problem since. That really has not been the case with her, though. She did not come remorseful and has since, you know, left a message to you and all of this. So I would say until she comes and makes a good case for herself, I'm okay with the 1-year ban. That's what you told her. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I don't have any problem with it either. I just think, I think she has to have a penalty from the whole library. I don't know how long you do the curbside.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, if the board comes back and makes that decision, I mean, I agree it's a little bit inconsistent that she's been doing it, but you told her that it had to be taken to the board. And so
I don't know what it would be. I don't know what it would be inconsistent. I've heard a few of you say, I'm not sure what it would be inconsistent with because we've never had curbside service. We've never had that.
No, I meant the idea that she's doing curbside service and then we come back and take it away from her.
I see.
Yeah, that's what I meant. However, if you've told her that this, you know, you have to take this back to the board and this is a board decision, then I don't think it would be strange for you know, you to say, or someone to say, the board has made this decision. You are banned from inside the library for whatever time, and you are banned from curbside service for a month as well. You know, a month from now, you can begin curbside service, and then we'll see, you know, the behavior and stuff.
I'm completely okay with that.
I hate to ask this question again because now we're kind of speaking about it. So we have not confirmed whether or not the second issue happened before and or after she started using the curbside service. Is that correct?
If you're talking about the voicemail she left me, I'm not sure. I think it's probably after, but I can find out. You know, we can look at the dates that she was given the curbside service, and I can get the date of the voicemail. That would.
Why was she calling you? Why was she calling you?
I don't know. It was not all that coherent, and it was mostly she was just responding to, you know, the fact that she wanted to come back to the library, and again, she's made several attempts to come in since she appealed to you guys. She's made several attempts to come in, and she made a couple attempts prior to that. Since I banned her prior to the appeal, so there's probably been about 4 or 5, maybe 6 instances where she's tried to come back into the library.
So, Rick, do you, you said you had looked at how long libraries normally ban people? Like the time limits?
All that stuff is, what I gave you is what I found. What
Okay.
is the examples.
On the one board, what is it? The Carol Stream should be out for a year. I mean, she would be out specifically for a year.
That's the way I read it, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're going to make a recommendation. Carl, I feel like you're not sure about this year thing. We are just making a recommendation as a committee. It does not mean this is the go ahead. Well, I mean, whatever we say here is we're making the recommendation. The board does not have to go along with our recommendation.
mhm.
Oh yeah, if anything, no, I was gonna say I support her serving as at minimum a 6-month ban from the actual being in the building. I know Rick said one, we want to back that up. Though we did say there's a precedent of once it's reviewed by the board, that may entail a lesser sentence. That's not my issue. Like I said, especially after the repeated offense, so to speak, I don't have an issue with that. My thing is just like taking away the curbside service after she's already been using it. It's I want to say seemingly without issue, but then that comes into the question whether or not we have that voicemail incident afterwards.
Again, right now, I would say, hold on. Right now, I would say she's banned from the library right now until we meet. If she has been using curbside or whatever, she's going to continue to use that until the board has made the decision, because we can't make that decision unless Rick wants to make it as the director under our current guidelines. So we will let her. Can't you just tell her that we are making a decision as a full board next month?
Yes.
Now she is banned from the library physically. She can use it, but it could be taken away from her.
Yes.
Is this something that we eventually have to put in writing, like to give her?
And I have. I mean, I always send a letter to anybody I ban and also explain the appeals process, explain that you can come to the Board of Trustees and make your case, and they can overrule my decision.
Okay. Okay.
If you guys, if you're comfortable with her using curbside until our full board makes a decision as her penalty, then I would let her go ahead and use it. But she's still banned from coming into the library.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I am, and maybe it'll turn out that I'm wrong, but I'm comfortable with the curbside.
If we have an incident before that, you can come to us and say that, and then, I guess we'll decide from there.
Yeah, that's definitely
Well, if there's another incident worth taking action over, I'll take action. I'll take that away from her, and she can come appeal that to you.
Right. Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, so we are amending the motion to back to a year, Susan?
Make the motion that she's banned for a year, and it's to be determined on curbside. What we're talking about is a month.
Recommended, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just recommend that, that she would be banned from physically for a year from the library and a month from curbside services.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we're recommending, so Michael? I'm assuming we got a
Yes.
discussion. All right. Susan, did you
Let
go?
me do one quick discussion point.
Yeah, okay, yeah, like I went too fast, so.
We're not starting the ban until the board okays our ban, correct?
The curbside ban.
Yes, the curbside service.
That's my
Our
understanding.
recommendation at the full board is this, but she continues to use the library at curbside for now. Unless Rick has another incident and he says no.
Mhm.
Yep,
That's not in the motion. That's just understood.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start again. So Michael,
Yes.
all right, Carl,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and Samantha, yes. Okay, so we are recommending that. All right, so we'll move on to the volunteer policy. So We've already pretty much gone over it. The last we had talked about, we have reviewed this before, and I know Carl and Susan weren't on the board when we were doing that. So it has to do, the reason we're reviewing this is the background checks and how often we want to do that, because we do feel like that is important. So
Yeah, I think the full board wanted to go back to committee, and then we just didn't have committee. COVID struck and everything, because in general, full board liked the policy. The question was I think everyone's agreed that nobody gets grandfathered in. So in other words, all current volunteers have to undergo a background check. But B, how often?
I'm
Now,
gonna ask Susan, I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt Rick, because she's with Girl Scouts, and it's kind of a similar type deal.
yeah, that would be.
Absolutely.
Are they able to-
Everyone,
Every year?
every Girl Scout leader, anyone with, had any association with the girls had to have background check.
How often?
I think just once.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it is with employees. I mean, we get a background check before we're hired, and then never again.
Mhm.
Whether that's wise or not,
Yeah,
that's where
I
we're-
don't know. That's what the policy was, but what is the recommendation here?
Well, this policy was put before the full board back in February, Susan,
Okay, okay.
and it was essentially approved, except it became a question of, do the current volunteers, some of whom have been here for 20 years, do we ask them to go and undergo a background check? And do we do it periodically? That was the other question. So, and I've talked to several libraries, and without exception, there are
I say
background checks.
everybody has to get it.
I would say
Uh,
everybody. Yeah.
Everybody, to make it equal.
Yeah. Everybody starts out on the same footing. 100%.
But I think I talked to one library that did them like on every 3-year rolling, but everybody else just did it the one time.
Yeah.
The one time. I mean, if you think that Girl Scouts, I mean, and they work with children more, I mean, like this volunteer policies for all of our volunteers, the adult, the local history, and
Mhm.
so, and the children's volunteers. So,
Mhm.
so if you think it's just the one time, I'm okay with that as well.
So that would mean then on the, the second page of the policy,
Mhm.
in the second paragraph, I would just change that language to say that by the end of 2020, all current library volunteers will agree to undergo a background check. And after whatever the date of the 15th of October 2020, all new volunteers will undergo a background check prior to beginning their duties.
How many
at the library.
How many current volunteers do we have, you know?
I was asked that at the last meeting too, and it's hard to pinpoint now since we didn't have a summer reading program. But typically it's around 35 or 40 altogether. Now that, and the other question that came up was boards. Do the boards have to do the same thing? And I think that we agreed that trustees don't work with the public. Foundation doesn't work with the public. Friends kind of do sometimes. But I don't think we can decide for them because they're really not library volunteers. It's a 501c3
Right,
corporation, and
That's their own thing. Yeah.
so it's mostly summer reading and local history. Now there's some other, we've had some others over the years, and we will continue to, but that's the lion's share of them. And summer reading, of course, work with kids. Now, typically, and the other question that came up is there teachers or retired teachers? That's who we see a lot of, who are presumably already getting a DPS 61 background check. So I would say that if DPS 61, if they're current teachers, I don't see any reason for us to,
Right.
pay to do something that DPS 61 is already.
I
Yeah.
can't remember. Is that,
But I need to verify that and make sure that I'm correct on.
Michael, didn't you confirm that last time?
I did, because I thought I texted somebody while
That's
we
right.
were in the.
That's right. You did. You
And
did.
also,
That is correct.
is that a field on the volunteer form? I can't remember, like occupation or. You're on mute.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
I just can't remember because I mean, I know you people people know that you're teachers, but just as a. Okay.
So is that language acceptable, and does that cover all the bases?
Yeah, do we need to say something about, unless the volunteers, current
Employer
employer has,
requires a background check.
Or if they can produce yeah.
I would say, yes, we can get by with it if we say has to reproduce a clear, whatever it is.
Mhm.
I don't know if you can get that though, like
Yeah, it
from
might not be.
your business. Like,
Yeah, I don't know either.
You mean like a teacher didn't have a copy of their own
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
background check? Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
I think it's like a personnel type.
Mm.
Yeah, I never saw mine.
Yeah.
How do we verify that?
It doesn't say anything on the form about, but we can put occupation or something.
Like,
How do you verify that they've had it?
Yeah, we can put employee.
No,
so, I mean, in order to work with students, the assumption, I guess, is that you would have to have a background check.
But then again, we could just, they're about $80. We could
Yeah,
just,
we could just require it of everybody.
Yeah, we could.
I mean, I like it doesn't really hurt. I mean, I like, especially if there are longstanding volunteers.
Right. Will any of those longstanding volunteers be upset about that?
that's the other thing that we worried about. And I think that the consensus at the last meeting is that some of them might be, but the lesser of two evils is to let them be upset rather than take the chance of having somebody who maybe is a sex offender here with kids.
well, and Rick can glaze over it. I mean, he can tell them in today's culture it is common, and he's talked to libraries, and we just want to do it for the safety of our patrons.
Yeah,
I haven't found an exception,
Yeah.
and you can always,
except for some really small libraries.
yeah, you can always hide behind the board and just say that, the board, this was a board decision.
Absolutely.
All right. So, if everybody, are we all kind of on the same page as far as the language and?
Yep.
Okay, well, I will request a motion to recommend this to the full board with the changes we discussed.
One quick question.
Hmm?
So with the background check, what exactly disqualifies someone? I mean, obviously you said it's like if they're a sex offender or something like that, and that's one thing, but what are we?
Yeah, maybe we do need to write that out. That would be my only, that would be my automatic.
Good question.
Yeah,
For instance, someone that has like a non-violent drug offense in their past history doesn't mean they don't like books and things like that or helping the community anymore.
Right. That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, and
There
those
would
would
probably be a time limit on that, I would think. You haven't had an offense within a year or two or whatever it is, I would think.
Yeah, so that's a fair question. What would be disqualifying?
I'm gonna have to step out, ladies and gentlemen. So if we're gonna make a decision, we can table this. You
Yep.
guys still have a quorum if I leave.
No,
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So your opinion before you
All right.
leave is,
I would say everybody gets a background check, and I don't
Okay.
know how to answer the question, but I'm with the group.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
See you, Michael.
Night.
Honestly, the only thing I was thinking of as a disqualifier is a sex offender, but that
that's
doesn't
kind of
mean,
what I was
that
thinking.
doesn't mean that's the, I mean, there could certainly be some strong arguments made for other types of offenses, but that would be my only disqualifier.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yeah.
say yes.
I would agree.
And
Yeah.
violent crime, maybe, I mean, yeah, looking at being convicted of murder, something like that, but.
Well,
Yeah.
but again,
Well, we're getting in the weeds, so don't let me. hold
old
anything up.
mental health worker. I've known a couple of pretty nice murderers, but that's
Yeah, I don't think we can start,
Down the rabbit hole.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, is there nothing on the form that asks if they're a felon or been charged with a felony or anything like that? No.
no, but there can be. I mean, I can make that addition really quickly. And again, we can just say that pending. We don't have to spell it out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
pending the results, I think the danger of not spelling it out, Carl is pointing out. Depending on who is sitting in this chair, somebody might say, that person was arrested for marijuana in 1978. I'm not letting them volunteer
Yeah.
in my library, so that's the danger
Wait a minute.
of not spelling it out, but spelling it out, it's hard to anticipate every possible thing that you do.
Right.
I would say that the sex offender is automatic, and I
Mhm.
can see where, you
Violent crime
could argue that a violent felon also should be.
Mhm.
I would agree, maybe like a 5 to 10 years prior to, but yeah, right there with you.
Yeah. So do we need to spell it out then, or I don't know.
Well, what if we just don't spell it out and it's just up to us? I mean, if the background check comes back, they're a sex offender, then we just deny it, say no. I mean, what, do we have to spell it out? I mean,
No, we don't. I think, and I don't want to put words in Carl's mouth, but I'm assuming his concern is if we don't spell it out, it could be that, misdemeanors could, and small things could be.
but wouldn't that be our decision? Wouldn't that be our
Well, it'd
decision?
be mine.
Yeah, so, I mean, if wouldn't, I trust you to have the discretion to say, well, this is somebody that was charged with marijuana, and this was somebody who was charged with, chopping their wife's head off or something.
And you guys might hear about it if I started to just arbitrarily tell people no. You
Yeah.
can't volunteer. You can't volunteer at the
Yeah.
library.
If
Yeah.
worded as necessary, I think that any sex offender crime and then a violent crime within the past 5 to 10 years would be a disqualifying thing, but if we don't want to put it in language, I'm fine with that as well.
It seems like a reasonable guideline to me.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want to do we have a motion? I requested a motion, but we didn't get there. So
Carl's moving.
okay. So the motion is that we're recommending to the board that we accept this policy with the changes that all volunteers will have a background check as of October 15th, whenever this is adopted. We'll start that process. And then how did you want to say the violent? So you wanted to say the sex offender.
Yeah, any kind of sex offender crime, or if you're on the sex offender registry.
So
Yep.
sex offender and
You got a violent crime or a violent.
or violent crime within 5 to 10 years is automatically disqualified. I don't know how to.
Works for me.
I can develop some language, and then the full board can decide if they want to wordsmith it or. Yeah.
Yep.
Delegate
Susan,
responsibility.
are you gonna Susan, are you gonna second that?
I'll second, yeah.
All right, so we'll do roll call. So Michael's gone. So Carl?
Aye.
Susan?
Yes.
Samantha, yes. Okay, so those are the action. So we'll move on to the city librarian performance evaluation process. So we have not done a city librarian, so that is one of our job duties, is to review Rick. We did not last year due to some kind of craziness in the library. So we are looking for procedure and the form for evaluating Rick. So what we've done in the past is we each have taken the form that would ultimately be agreed upon, and then we each fill out from our perspective on the different, fields of the library, and then the person compiles that information and then makes a recommendation back to the board. Am I saying that correctly, Robert?
You are saying that usually I think there's a committee, right, Rick? A few of them that meet together and sort of it's not really ad hoc.
It was just Aaron. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
or Aaron
So-
and maybe somebody else.
Yeah, Aaron
Yeah, a
did it,
couple people,
Mark
yeah.
has done it.
Yeah,
They solicit information from the entire board.
Right.
Or input from the entire board on a form. But you gotta be careful, make sure that it's not going to everybody, just
Right.
Between one person. And then typically when the comments are compiled and an average of scores is come to, then it's been Mark Sorensen did it one year, Aaron did it one year, Jim Alpey did it one year, have a one-on-one meeting to review it with me.
right.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and then Rick creates on the agenda a closed session so it can be discussed. And if you want to have closed sessions before you actually come to the decision, discuss the city librarian's performance, you can do that, but you'll need to let him know, in time so we can get that on the agenda.
Well, having been in typically those closed sessions are not the evaluation of me.
Right.
I'm not in the room. That is to set any salary changes that are made. The evaluation of me has typically been a one-on-one meeting, and I
Right.
think in every case has been a one-on-one meeting in my office with the designated trustee.
Right.
So Susan,
Yeah, okay. I don't know that I've ever done it this way or seen it done this way, but
It doesn't
So
have to be done that
it
way.
doesn't
This
have
is
to
not
be.
in writing.
yeah,
Okay.
that's why we're coming up with a procedure.
Okay.
So because we don't have a process right
It's-
now.
okay.
It's changed,
So you
actually
said-
changed in the last, since Rick's got here. I think it changed twice when Rick was here, and then,
Oh, no.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So, I personally don't have any experience with it other than filling out the form back when Aaron, or maybe, I feel like I did do one.
Yeah, Aaron, right before he left.
Yeah, maybe that was it. So I don't have personal experience, but
You sent me a couple of, I haven't had a chance to look at them yet, but
Yeah, I
a
know.
couple of other ones. And Rick, did you have a couple of other libraries, boards processes for that?
I don't at this point, but I can get that. And there's some information on a couple of websites that might help guide you through it, and I can send you some links to that.
Okay.
Michael went through the last process.
Yeah, I was thinking about perhaps
Yeah.
asking Michael to join in.
Yeah.
I just thought we'd work up a process and then go from there. Is this also a time when the board sets salary or
Typically, it
Raises
has been.
Yeah, it
Okay.
typically has been.
okay?
We didn't. I mean, there was a lot of other things that we were dealing with, and so it just kind of like the prior
Mhm.
board leadership it just didn't come up, I guess. So
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'll try to work on that and maybe by the next meeting have some kind of a thing, but maybe I'll ask Michael to work with me a little bit. So, yeah, but I'd appreciate anything you can give me because.
I will.
yeah, since it's all kind of new to all of
Mhm.
us. So, and I'm happy to help however I can, as well. And I mean, ideally, if we could come up with a procedure and then give him some feedback and, because when did you say your anniversary is, Rick? Like June or
April.
April?
April.
I
Okay.
knew that. I don't know why I said June.
And that'll be how long, Rick?
It'll be 7 years next
7
year,
years?
Next April will be 7 years.
April.
7 years. Okay.
So
All right.
I think I've definitely been here since you got here. So it's like, because I was on the other boards for
Yep.
since 2013. So, okay. So we don't have any more action. So that's just a discussion. Anything else that we need to talk about with that particular item? Okay.
I'm sure I will, but
I know. No, I know. And I knew I just kind of threw it on you. And I appreciate that you're willing, because I think you've had that experience. So I think that would be a really good help. So, all right. So we'll move on to the personnel update. Rick?
Yeah, just a few things that I wanted to update you on. And some of them, I apologize. Sometimes there's going to be some overlap, but Shakira Powell was promoted to clerk from Page, which she's working out great. And it's fantastic because Shakira has been somebody who has been a dependable, hardworking, quick learner since the day she started. And it's great to see her. It's great to see her move up and especially have, this is, I'm just going to say it. This is a getting outside the box for her, having a public facing job. And I'm really proud of her. We had one retirement, Lori Cerny. She retired as of the 15th of September. She'd been with us for about 15 years or so, Robert. Something like that. So Lori's retired. We've got our 2 new halftime library assistants just celebrated their 2 months. Christy Nickerton Smith and Sherry Keller. And they're working out very well. We've got right now, Robert and I are still, I'm hoping to have Joanne's old position posted next, or not posted internally. I'm just going to go straight to the public. And if there are internal applicants, they're welcome to apply as well. But hoping to publicize that next week. We're going to make some changes to the job duties and maybe even in job title. And
Position is that?
Pardon?
What position are we referring to? That's
administrative aide. She was our administrative aide of a long standing. So we're looking at that, and then we've got Shakira's job to backfill, and we're deciding. Shakira was a half-time paid. She's now a full-time clerk, and then we've got to make a decision on Lori's position. Robert and I are discussing that. So.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to, I don't think we have any other old business, or new business. So we will move on to old business, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So Robert, I'll leave you. I saw your email, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet. You're on mute.
Oops. There. Yes, I sent an email out, and it basically was just some of the notes from the meeting that we had. Great meeting with Karen Lyons, I think is her last name. But she just kind of took us through. She's from the Evanston Public Library, by the way. She took us from their process through our process from the sort of the beginning to the ending, and gave us some insight on when they brought in their consultants, counselors. It's interesting because she said that, you know, they have a more of a Latinx community, and she said they, you know, a lot of them were underserved. Certain areas were underserved in their library. They saw a lot of, you know, areas where they can improve. And so this has really helped the diversity inclusion process. The whole project has really been helpful to them, working not just with the community, but some of the things that have come out. Now, there's some things that really jumped out at me. They had, I think it's a Black affinity group that that was created. That was interesting. She talked about walkers going out into the community and actually getting the message out to different areas where people normally don't go. And she also talked about, you know, hiring someone from the Latino community to be an engagement person, and having different volunteers working with them, and also how they sunsetted their volunteers and the members of the committee. So there was a lot of good discussion, and there were some good questions to her. And I just kind of put the topics that we talked about on the email, and I can send it to the whole personnel committee. The other thing is that we, afterwards, I did get an email from Dieta Jones company, and they're the ones that worked with Evanston, and they did, you know, a really great job. They're the one that helped with the document that they have on their website. So it's been pretty good responses. Of course, we've been very busy the last couple of weeks, so I haven't had a whole lot of chance to talk with people. And actually, I've talked to some of the committee members, and they're busy too. So it's kind of worked out pretty well in that respect. So it's also, you know, I've been talking with different libraries and see what they're doing with their diversity policy. And one thing I've noticed that their diversity planning. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of libraries, you know, they're really tying it in with their strategic planning. And I was talking with Rick today about our strategic plan. You know, I didn't mention this part, but they're tying that portion in there. And also on their website, they have a diversity statement. There's some, you go to some of the websites and there's a diversity statement, how they, you know, this is what we believe, this is what we stand for. So right now it's, you know, it's moving ahead. It's not moving as fast as I would like for it to move, but it's moving, it's steady, you know, it's a steady pace. And Karen did sort of say, you know, it's good to take your time, you know, and guys get out of it what you need to get out of it.
When she said that there are walkers that go out in the community to spread the word, what are they saying?
So the word basically about library services.
Okay.
We're talking about library services. Thank you for asking about that. Talking about library services and talking about to different people. For example, she was saying there are certain areas, of course, you know, they're basically one group of people in that area. And, you know, some of those areas are not reached, and, you know, they don't know they have free Wi-Fi or free hotspots. You know, they don't know. And she sent me the link. Actually, I got to share that with you, Rich. They are right now in the process of loaning out laptops, you know, working with those type of things. And some people don't know that all of this these free things are out there. You know, one of the great things I like about the PNG, which brought Secretary White here, was that you get to, that whole program works with people who part of the digital divide. And so there are people who don't have these resources. And so you do want to get them out to there. So the walkers it's funny they call them walkers, but they were actually walking to these areas. You know, they were just, hey, we're going to walk over here, drive maybe, and then walk in these areas and just go door to door if we need to, and let them know about library services. So I thought that
would also be interesting to see, like, community needs, like so not only are they telling what the services are, but also like asking what they need to.
Right.
So
And
that was really interesting.
That was a part of the thing that they started out, what was their needs? What were their needs? The community needs assessment. you know, and also with their library, what kind of environment, you know, they were, well, how did they already, right at this moment, you know, how do you feel about your library? How do you feel about diversity in your library? How do you feel about your coworker, you know, or your library's progress in diversity? Are they moving in the right direction, do you think? So it was a good, you know, a start to sort of gauge where the staff is or was also. So
I wonder if they've had any success at all. Have they had a way to gauge that, or, you know? if
she
that
mentioned some
works
metrics.
for people?
She did mention some metrics that were that they had gotten out of that, and she would probably share them with me. I
Yeah,
know,
I was just curious, yeah.
yeah.
Well, if you do that if you do that survey of staff, you know, you can use that as a baseline and come back later and say, okay, we've done this for 6 months. Let's ask the same questions.
Right.
We've done it for a year. Let's ask the same questions. And that could be, of course, there's some turnover, but I want to add to what Robert's saying. A couple of the policies I'm going to bring before this committee by year's end. One of them is the collection development policy. And that is statutorily, we have to review that every 2 years. And I've given that to division head who supervises the selectors to review with those selectors being the people who do the collection development, and said, you know, one of the lenses that this needs to be looked at through is the lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion. The other, in the other policy that is coming up by year's end is the adult computer use policy. There are others, but these are the two that I want to look at, among other ways, through the lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion. One of the things I think that we are going to give strong consideration to, for instance, on the adult computer use policy is right now, if you owe the library $25 or more, you cannot get online. And I think I wanted to recommend that we do away with that altogether. You know, if you're a sentient adult and you come in and you want to use a computer, you can use the computer. That's going to be, I think, going to be my recommendation, unless anybody on the division heads can talk me out of it before I bring it to you guys.
I'm all about access if possible. And, you know, like I know I've talked to you about, you know, like the fees that people incur, and, you know, how can we help people get access to their accounts? And so, I mean, that's just something I'm thinking about. I did have a question, Robert, about what is sunsetting? The sunsetting? The sunsetting committee?
It's putting an end date on a policy or it's eliminating essentially that.
All right. Yeah, it's basically in this particular conversation, what she was talking about, sunsetting. So you have volunteers, you know, where you let them know that there will be a date that we probably will ask for more volunteers, or you have committee members that are not staff or board members who you may say, well, you know, we may have you, you know, for next 6 months, or, you know, if you want to go 6 months, fine, 2 months, 3 months, fine. And I think it works well because, you know, people don't often feel like I have to be there and for the rest of my life, you know, my kids. Yeah. So
the time limit, and it may be temporary. Like
it may be, that's a better word right there. It's temporary, you know, or until we get past this part. So that was the sunsetting part of it.
Okay. So, and then, so you suggested, or she suggested, that committee members supply a list of names of consultants like in our community, like to try to support. Is that right?
Well, what they did was, you know, and like I said, I've contacted their consultant, and we also have a couple here in the city that I've contacted. But she said, you know, we also, you know, just in case there's someone who's local who is experienced with this, and, you know, we don't want to overlook them. So if someone has, you know, some names, you know, they can throw it in there, then, you know, open it up so they can actually be considered.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Is there anything else on this topic?
I don't think so.
Susan, you're on mute.
I think you're getting really valuable information. I think it's all good.
Yeah.
It's, I think so too. I'm excited. And to me, what's amazing, you know, is that the executive director of the public library is so excited about it that she said, no, I'll be there. I'll give this meeting, you know, I'll set it up, you know. And so she was, so we have a Zoom account. No, I'll send out the invitation. So she was sending out the invitation. So to me, that says volumes, you know, and she just got really excited about what they've done. So, you know, hopefully, you know, I like this, you know, I would like for ours to be even bigger and better. So, so
Right.
that's good.
I think that's really cool. I really love like the walkers. Like I'm all like I would totally participate. So you sign me up. But so yeah, I think Carl, Susan, anything else?
No?
Who are the local consultants? I know you said there was a couple of them that were in the local area.
I don't have a list of yet. That's why I'm sort of reaching out. You know, I have a couple of people who have been suggested to me. And at least one said that, you know, let us know when you're ready for that part of it. And I have another gentleman, he's actually attended one of our meetings, Dr. Braylock. He's he's not local though, but he's in Ohio. So we haven't really reached out to local consultants or asked people, you know, if you know someone.
Oh, if you know somebody, you can point them to Robert.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask somebody. I don't know. I'm gonna ask somebody if they know anybody because I don't
And
know.
I think we talked earlier about, you know, maybe going with more than one consultant, maybe looking at, you know, how if we can get more than one, you know, a lot of ideas in it and see how that works. So,
I like that.
There's more than one piece to this, so I think
Right.
that's entirely reasonable.
Yeah.
You know, we're going through the same process in the Illinois Library Association board, and you know, I think that for us, kind of the biggest way is just changing the thinking that, you know, this is, you know, I'm not afraid to say it, white supremacy. It's baked in, so the solution has to be baked in too. You know, so we're looking at policies that may seem like they're not, that have nothing to do with diversity. It turns out they do, you know, so when you look at them a little bit more closely.
Yeah.
Can I back up to personnel for a minute when we're finished with this? There's something I forgot to mention, and it's just, it won't take long at all.
I have one more question on this particular topic. Is there any like like classes or anything about like reviewing policy with that lens, like with a diverse lens?
wow, that's a very good question. I know there's a seminar out there. I think I sent it out at the beginning, and over on ALA, and they talk about the exactly what you're saying. They say that, you know, and the librarian was saying that, you know, she used to look at things through certain color, you know, whatever color glasses.
Bias, whatever it is.
Right. And then afterwards, she, you know, now she's it's changed. She realizes that, you know, my thought process is totally different than what I needed to provide the resources for this diverse group that I was looking at. So classes, I'm not sure. I can look into that. I can actually definitely see if I can contact that.
I think it'd be good for our committee.
Right.
To have that experience, you know, when we're reviewing policies, like, are we looking for certain things, like, because we do want to make this, you know.
Right.
So.
Well, I'll definitely contact, I think I'll start with ALA and then ILA because they have a real big, I mean, they're huge. Their program is huge for diversity and, you know, and inclusiveness. It's and equity. It's So they have a lot of people that they've assigned to it. So they do get back with you too. So I think I'll start with them and see what I can come up with, and I'll send it out.
This year's conference does have a handful, at least, of seminars on diversity, and one of them that has piqued my interest is called "Shift Your Systems: Your Library Can Do Equity Work." It's about how to get started on an equity and diversity audit for your library.
I'll see when that is. Because I don't know what my, I don't know which ones I signed up for. So. But I signed up for all the trustee ones, so. Okay, so anything else on this topic? All right, then we'll move back to personnel update.
Yeah, I just want to, I was asked to do this some time ago, and I keep forgetting, but I want to let you guys know who is having an anniversary this month, which employees. Ellen Chappell, who is a part-time library page. As of the 4th, she'll have been here 16 years. Lisa Tokars, who is a library clerk 2. I think she's second only to Robert in seniority here. She's been here since the October 21st of 1993, so 27 years. And Karen Williams, junior cataloger. She'll on the 29th, she'll have been here for 13 years. Those are our October anniversaries.
Kathy Collette is in front of me.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah.
So that goes Kathy, you, then Lisa, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it. Like Lisa helped me out when I was there on Tuesday. So that's okay. So there's anything else the attempt so in the next meeting you're going to have those other policies for us. So it might be a longer meeting. The ideal situation would be that we might be going long next month. Just so maybe we don't have to meet in December. So, because I know that's the busiest time of year. So usually, so we might not, but we might not. Depends on what happens. So, but we do have a few, like maybe 4 more policies to review before the end of the year. So that's our goal, I guess.
Yeah, and that's to stay on my self-imposed schedule, except the collection development policy,
Yeah,
which
that's
is Illinois statute every 2 years.
Yep. And then I know Susan, you sent me that email. We will have the standards meeting in November. I just haven't looked at my calendar yet, and I'll send out some date. I know I don't think it'll be that bad. I don't know. I don't remember what you got assigned, but I think yeah. I was trying to be considerate of what people were good at. So that might be why you got assigned to something. I don't know. So anyway, and if you have thoughts about, improvements or things like that. So, okay, well, I will take a motion to adjourn unless there's anything else.
I move.
Like question that we're calling a special board meeting, right? To go over afterwards, and that will be in between, the 15th.
No, it won't be in October. It'll be in November.
Oh.
Yeah. So you're good. The standards meeting will be next month. I'm going to give people a little bit of time. Okay. So second, I need a second. You guys say it. All right. We'll go Carl.
Aye.
Susan.
Yes.
And Samantha, yes. All right. We are adjourned at 6:04.